Hi everyone, TechSphere here, and today we're taking a look at the brand new AirPods Pro 3 from Apple. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to use this, how to activate the heart rate mode, and take advantage of all its features. So inside the packaging with these AirPods, you just get the case itself, a little bit of paperwork, and then finally underneath that you get 4 extra size ear tips. You have an extra small, an extra small, a small, the mediums that are on the earbuds by default, and then you have a large. So hopefully you can find one that fits best for your ears. So now I want to talk about the physical case and the AirPods themselves. So if you've used previous AirPod Pros, you might remember the button on the back of the unit. This would allow you to put the device into pairing mode, but we no longer have that button on the back. So now if you ever want to put your device into pairing mode, such as if you want to connect this to a Kindle, a Garmin running watch, an Android phone, a lot of different devices that you want to connect this to via Bluetooth, you put both your AirPods in the case, you open it up, and then you double tap, and it'll put it into pairing mode. Or at least you double tap until you see that white light flashing, and then you can connect it in your Bluetooth settings just like any other Bluetooth device. Now you also notice this LED indicator. If it flashes amber, that means you have less than a full charge remaining for your AirPods battery life, which means that it won't be able to get your AirPods back to 100% charge. And if it's green, that means you have at least a full charge battery for your AirPods remaining in the case. Now at the bottom we do have a USB-C charging port, which we've seen from other recent devices as well. So of course you can connect a USB-C to USB-C cable, such as the one that came with your iPhone or your iPad, and you can charge it this way. However, this also supports MagSafe wireless charging, which means also with the Apple Watch charger. So if you have an Apple Watch, you can actually connect this to the back of your AirPods and it will charge. And what's really cool is that you can even charge it from your iPhone if it has a USB-C port, such as the iPhone 14 and newer. You can do this with a USB-C to Apple Watch charger, or of course a USB-C to USB-C charger. So I think that is a really cool feature. Now also at the bottom of your AirPods, you can see these 3 little speaker ports. This will be used for a variety of things. If you lose your AirPods and you go into the Find My app, you can make the AirPods beep and ding so you can find them. It'll also be used for charging indicators, such as it'll make a sound when you place it on the charger, as well as indicating battery status when you put your AirPods in. And on the right side, you have a couple holes for a lanyard. That's pretty much it for the design of these AirPods. Okay, now let's talk about the physical earbuds themselves. And pretty much all the magic happens with this little stem that you can barely see on the side of your AirPod. Now by default, pressing once will play or pause media, and it will also answer an incoming phone call. Pressing twice will skip forward or backwards in your media. It will also end a phone call. Pressing once will mute that phone call while you're on it. And pressing 3 times will skip backwards in your media. Now, for instance, if you're listening to a podcast, double clicking will actually skip forward 30 or 15 seconds, and triple clicking will skip backwards by 30 or 15 seconds, depending on how you have it configured in the podcast app, which is really handy as well. Now, by default, holding the stem for like a second will allow you to switch between the different listening modes, between noise cancellation, adaptive mode, and transparency mode. I'll also show you in the settings later how you can also turn on the off mode, which is a completely neutral state. Swiping up and down on this little pad will increase or decrease volume. I know some people in the past have had a little bit of trouble with this. You kind of just have to figure it out. You just use a gentle swipe up or down on either AirPod, and this will allow you to increase or decrease the media playback volume. And finally, now if you have both of these in your ear, you press and hold on both of the side buttons and it'll put you into live translation mode, which is a beta feature but will allow you to, in real time, translate different languages into your own language. And lastly, there's now a new feature where inside your camera app, you can actually use your AirPods to work as a camera shutter. So I'm going to put this in my ear right now, and I'm going to press the button once. And I'll actually start a 3-second timer to take a photo. So I'll show you what this looks like. I have my front-facing camera up. I'll press the button once, and it'll start a 3-second countdown of the timer. Now you can also change this to be activated with a press and hold instead of with a single press. Okay, so now let's dig through a few of the settings with your AirPods. So when you have them connected, you'll actually see a little toggle up top on your device with that. Otherwise, you can go into Bluetooth and connect them manually. Click the little I button, it'll take you into your settings. From there, you can see your battery status of both the individual AirPods. You can see my right AirPod is much lower battery, as well as you can see the status of the case. You can rename it, and you can choose the different listening modes. Now, another way of getting to these listening modes is actually to go into your control center, tap and hold on this icon right here, the volume icon, and there you can switch several settings on and off, including listening mode, between adaptive, noise cancellation, and transparency. Now, if you want noise cancellation mode, you're going to have both of these earbuds in at once. You do have a few hearing health settings right here, which is really cool. So if you want to use this for hearing protection, like at a concert, and if you want to use this as hearing assistance, like a hearing aid, or take a hearing test to see how your hearing health is doing, you can do that all right there. Now, these settings will change what happens when you press and hold on the stem, like we talked about earlier. By default, both settings, the left and the right, will be changing between the listening modes, and you can see what these listening modes are here. If you want to change one of these to activate Siri, you can do that as well, but these also support hands-free Siri, so you can also just manually activate Siri that way. So we go back and we see those call controls that we talked about earlier. So by default, if you have a call coming in, you can press 1 to answer it. And then once you're in that call, you can mute and unmute with press once or press twice. You can configure that, and you can end the call with press once or press twice. I like doing press once to be a mute or unmute because it's less severe, and press twice to end call because it's a little bit more intentional. And then here we have the camera controls toggles, which we talked about. You can activate it with either press once, press and hold, or off. I think it makes sense to have this turned on. When you're in the camera app, you can activate the trigger with the side button. There's also personalized volume, which will basically adjust the volume for you. I typically don't like this. I just like to choose my own volume. And also conversation awareness, that if you're talking, it will actually lower media and allow more voices to come through. I also just don't have this on. Automatic ear detection is pretty obvious for me to keep this on. This means that when you take your earbuds out of your ear, it'll play or pause and vice versa. You can see the new live translation feature here, which you can test out if you're in a context that you want to do that. There's also a new setting now to pause media when falling asleep, which is pretty cool. And if you take naps with these on, might be a good thing to save battery life, such as when you're on a plane and you fall asleep with music playing and then you wake up and your AirPods are dead. This might be a good way of preventing that from happening. And you go down to search, you can search for heart. And there you can see heart rate. And here it'll show you your heart rate. So this hasn't updated in 4 minutes, so I click on this, and it will hopefully update soon. I'm in a very warm room, so my heart rate is a bit higher right now as I'm talking. There's also the new head gestures. That means that whenever Siri is trying to communicate with you, whether it's from the Apple Watch or from the phone, you can nod your head up and down or side to side to say yes or no. So for instance, if you're doing a workout on your Apple Watch and your watch says, hey, it looks like you forgot to resume this, do you want to resume? You can nod yes or no, and it will do that without having to interact with your phone or your watch. So that's a nice feature to have. You can also see your battery settings here. You can have charging notifications. When they're getting low, that'll pop up at the top. And you can also optimize charge limit, which I think is a good thing to do. That way it keeps your battery health in the best state possible. You can enable charging case sounds. This is nice so that you know that you're getting confirmation when your device is charging, but if you're in a context where you don't want those sounds coming out of the speaker, you can turn that off. Of course, you will want this on the Find My network. That way, if you ever lose it, you can track it and find it. So if we go into here, you can see all the different settings that you have with your AirPods, which is pretty nice. You can play sound, which will make the speakers play a sound. You can find it using the Find My network. You can show it as lost, and you can also have notifications when you leave it behind. So these are all very handy features if you ever lose your AirPods. So definitely recommend doing that. And if you ever lose your AirPods, don't forget to just check out the Find My app to try to find them. This is a great feature. There's also this off listening mode, which Apple used to include by default, but now it's by default turned off. I think the only context this might really be handy is if you're really trying to save battery life, or if you're riding your bike. I find that the wind noise is too crazy with either noise cancellation or transparency. So I think off mode might be handy for some people in special contexts, such as when you're riding a bike. When you have this available, basically all it does is allow you to swap to an off mode in your settings. So now, instead of having these 3 options, you now have these 4 options. So I like to have this setting turned on. And last but not least is the new heart rate mode. Now, there's several ways of getting to your heart rate, and basically as long as you have one earbud in, you will be getting your heart rate. So if you go into your health app and you go down to the search button, you can go to heart and you can see your heart rate. And if you click on this little tab, it'll show you your latest. So it's 76. So I'm in a pretty warm room right now, so my heart rate is a little bit high right now. You can also pin this to your home screen. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can do pin to summary, or right now it says unpin. So if you go back to your summary and you scroll down, you can see your heart rate there. And then you can also drag and rearrange to keep this there. Now you can also activate Siri to enable heart rate. So what is my heart rate? And it will ask you to go into your health settings and activate Siri in order to use this app. So if you go into data access and devices and you go down to Siri, you can enable this. So I can say, what is my heart rate? And you can see it'll now show you your heart rate. And then heart rate will automatically be tracked while you're wearing your earbuds. And if you're wearing an Apple Watch at the same time, it'll choose which device seems to be more accurate in order to give you your data. Now there's several ways of seeing your battery with your AirPods. Whenever you open up the case and keep it nearby your device, it should pop up with the case and it'll tell you what your battery status is. Sometimes this can be a little bit finicky. So you can see right there, you get that battery status. If you swipe down from the top and you go into this little AirPlay button, you can also see your status. So my left is 36, my right is 20, and my case is 56. You can also add a widget to your home screen. So if you tap and hold, and you click Edit, and you click Add Widget, and you search for battery, you can add a battery widget of varying sizes, and this can show you your battery percentage as well. And you can see you can get a full list just like that. And you'll just click Add Widget, and it'll add it to your home screen. So that's how to use the new AirPods Pro 3. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you found this video helpful. This is a really cool device. I'll leave some accessories linked down in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.